All right, so let's get into the my nuts and bolts analysis of what are UAPs and how do they work. So the jury really is still out on this. It could be a lot of different things. You know, it could have a nuts and bolts explanation. It could have a more esoteric explanation. The nuts and bolts camp seems largely focused on space-time metric engineering with little understanding as to how that could possibly work. Physics implies it's possible, but we just don't understand how from an engineering perspective. Some people employ zero-point energy theories. Others refer to Bob Lazar's element 115. I have three possible nuts and bolts explanations that don't revolve around Bob Lazar or zero-point energy. Now, I want to put up a disclaimer that these are not meant to be catch-all explanations. For all we know, we're dealing with multiple technologies. The idea is that in some cases, this may be what we're seeing. Also, if we wanted to replicate these things that we're seeing, you know, this might be how we would do it. I'm going to start with the most grounded in known physics explanations and then move on to more speculative. I got three basic hypothesis here. So the first one is non-space-time metric engineering using compact fusion with ionic propulsion. So there are ways to explain some UAP without any new physics whatsoever. If some secret organization somewhere had compact fusion reactors, they could be using that technology to power UAP. In fact, this could even be a power source for space-time metric engineering, but a compact fusion reactor would be so powerful that it could create almost all of the anomalous flight characteristics without warping space-time. Hold on. Slightly lost my place. All right. The lack of a propeller or wings or thruster could be explained by little-known non-conventional ion lift and propulsion technologies. These are well-established mechanisms of flight that usually are not considered practical because they are energy inefficient and of little value if you're using conventional fuel sources. Basically, a non-conventional fuel source means you can employ non-conventional flight. There are currently research groups working on compact fusion designs that could achieve this potentially in the not-so-distant future. So this isn't a completely crazy idea that's super sci-fi. You know, we know if we had a compact fusion reactor, we could make things that fly like what we're seeing these things do, potentially.
Well, to add something to that, yeah, the only thing that we are, a step away from that, and we're actually developing right now superconductors that, the problem with superconductors is that they have to be, super cooled.
Room temperature superconductor.
Yeah, we're very close to creating functional room temperature superconductors.
Well, I'd like to see some research on that, but
there actually is. In 1987, there was a couple of scientists that basically.
All right, you send me that information, and I'll check that out. But let me finish. I'll let you do your thing. All right. So once you have this small, insanely powerful energy source, and yes, you're right. If we had room temperature superconductors, it would become way easier to make these types of fusion engines. Once you have those, ionic propulsion technology can explain transmedium travel as it can work in air, water, and space, which is what we're observing. It would be very silent, another thing we're observing. It would require different modes for each medium, which also explains commonly reported observations such as it hovered in place and then shot into space like a bullet, or the infamous Tic Tac incident where it hovered over the water, which was described as looking as if it was boiling. This could be an attempt to break the surface tension of the water before entering. Another point I've never heard anybody make before is that most of these craft are observed to have aerodynamic shapes. Triangles, spheres, and cylinders are all very aerodynamic. Based on the principles of form and function, this stands to reason that they may very well be operating under classical aerodynamic flight. I do have some sources I will put in the show notes to support my theory of using specifically aneutronic fusion, compact reactors, and ion-propelled craft, magnetohydrodynamic drives, and ion thrusters.